Imagine yourself in an argument with a loved one. Notice how your choice of words can change their perspective on not only yourself but reality as a whole. Language has the power to influence thought and provoke experiences. My name is Vanessa Smay, and today we'll examine the Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis, where the relation between language and thought affects our worldly perception. Our relationships are generally united through a uniqueness, but those differences can also create a rift. By analyzing my best friend and I's communication issues, you will be able to grasp a better understanding of how to implement strategies into your relationship challenges, especially in our culturally diverse world. This will entail a concise summary of a study involving language and behavior, including respective findings to relationships and a personal application to comparative relationship, which all revolve around the key theory Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis. In the article, An Experimental Study of Language and Non-Linguistic Behavior, it challenges previous ad hoc demonstrations by testing the hypothesis that present language influences future behaviors. The study focuses on the Apascan language, which uses stem verbs that classify objects based on event participation rather than characteristics. 3 groups, native speakers of Navajo, English, and various non-Apascan American Indian languages, were asked to divide sets of 4 objects into 2 groups. To minimize bias, the task was designed to be non-linguistic. This setup allows for analysis of how Navajo group categories relate to other classifications, highlighting the connection between language and behavior. Some terms to keep in mind when formulating your consensus are latency, which is the state of existing but not yet being developed, variance, which is the difference among a group of means, and LEI, which stands for the Language Experience Index, which promotes linguistic approaches. Each of these are important factors in a statistic analysis with testing significance and probability. As similarly stated, the article expands upon the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which is the idea of classifying objects through scientific reasoning. They were able to compare multiple language groups and identify its relation to behaviors. This reveals the main topic of the course, language and how individuals derive meaning in many communicated ways. For further reference, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is found on page 57 in chapter 3 of our textbook. The theory was developed by linguistic determinists that noted words have the power to form a reality by serving as the apparatus we use to describe and label our experiences and surroundings. The first is a cross-language comparison developed as a testable proposition. If language A reunites reference X and Y and language B separates them, then speakers of language A should be more likely than speakers of language B to exhibit the same non-linguistic response to them. Page 221. The second hypothesis notes the design validation. The 3 groups should not differ significantly among themselves, nor should any group depart significantly from randomness. Page 225. The third hypothesis includes the sorting of the experiment. The Navajo group should make significantly more Y sorts than the other groups for types 1 and 2. The number of Y sorts made within the Navajo group should correlate positively with the LEI, but this correlation should either not exist or exist to a lesser degree in the Pueblo group. Page 226. The final hypothesis describes the latency of the experiment. The Navajo group should not differ in latency among types 1, 2, and 3, while the English and Pueblo groups should have significantly longer latency for types 3 than for types 1 and 2. The Navajo should have an equally available solution for all 3 types, whereas the other groups should find types 3 with only a formed solution more difficult. Navajo latencies for Y sorts will be less than X or Z sorts for types 1, 2, and 3, and this difference will be greater than similar differences, if such exist, within the English and Pueblo groups. Page 226. The only expected correlation was between LEI and the number of Y sorts in the Navajo group and Pueblo groups, but this finding is undermined by the lack of an English group for comparison. While it's difficult to predict non-linguistic behavior based on linguistic categories, distinguishing between language and speech or between language and structure and behavior might provide insight. A correlation can exist if the structural statement is sufficiently robust. Chi-square tests on type 4 show no significant differences among the experimental groups or variation from randomness and sorting. All groups exhibited longer latencies for random types 4 compared to types 1, 2, and 3 items with built-in solutions, confirming the hypothesis. Chi-square tests on the sorting results for types 1 and 2 and their combined total show no significant differences among the groups. Although the Pueblos consistently made fewer Y sorts, product moment correlations revealed a significant relationship for the Navajo groups at the 0.05 level, while the Pueblo groups was non-significant. The difference between the 2 correlations was significant at the 0.05 level, partially confirming the hypothesis. The analysis of variance for hypothesis 2 indicated a significant increase in latency for the Navajo group on type 3 compared to types 1 and 2. The same difference for the other groups was significant at the 0.05 level. Mean response times show that both the Navajo and English groups took less time for Y sorts compared to X or Z. but they could not be distinguished by relative latency. In contrast, the Pueblo groups had longer response times for Y sorts. The Navajo and English groups clustered together, while the Pueblo groups were separate, partially confirming the hypothesis. For my application, I chose my best friend as my analysis of my interpersonal relationship. Based on the article, I plan to change how I communicate in my relationship. Often we only see our own perspectives, but we could better address our problems by moving beyond this. The article deepens my understanding of the hypothesis and highlights aspects of a relationship that hinder open communication. My best friend and I have different experiences. I've moved away for school while they attended a local college. Each path has its challenges, but my bilingual upbringing has helped me develop a broader perspective. Overall, I now recognize the importance of considering others' behaviors and aim to communicate more effectively, acknowledging the link between language and behavior. Our relationships are often strengthened by our individuality, yet those very differences can also lead to misunderstandings. By examining the communication challenges between my best friend and me, insights are gained on how to apply effective strategies in navigating relationship issues, particularly in our culturally diverse society. Through the study's summary of language and behavior, its related findings with relationships, and an application of an interpersonal relationship, all centered around the theory of a Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. The theory emphasizes the influence language has on perception and interactions, molding our connections and understandings. By recognizing how linguistic frameworks influence language and behavior, our world can embrace deeper and more diverse connections. By implementing the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, navigating relationships is with ease. I appreciate you all for turning into this informative speech, and I hope you take away from this an opportunity to improve upon an interpersonal relationship in your life.